Okay, so let's dive into this. We're looking at a daily reflection today, right? And it's centered on Psalm 76.
That's right.
And the big thing it seems to be getting at is finding that balance,
Yeah.
how we view God, of his mercy, sure, but also his might, his justice.
Exactly. Yeah, the source material really sets up this interesting dynamic, maybe not tension, but a connection perhaps, between God's love, which is, incredible, and his equally incredible power and holiness.
Right. So I guess our mission here is to really unpack what this reflection in Psalm 76 are saying, try and get maybe a full picture of God, including those parts we might sometimes skim over, and then importantly, figure out what that fuller understanding means for us, for how we actually live day to day.
Yeah, it's about seeing the whole landscape, isn't it? Not just maybe the easier bits. And the psalm itself, it starts right off grounding God's presence. It mentions Judah, Israel, Salem, Zion, verses 1 and 2.
Ah, right. Establishing where he is known, where he dwells, gives it a real sense of place.
Exactly. His abode, his dwelling place, right there in these specific earthly locations familiar to ancient Israel.
And it's interesting how right after doing that, the material notes, the psalm, just pivots immediately to his power, especially in like a conflict setting.
Yeah, verse 3, it says, he broke flashing arrows, the shield, the sword, and the weapons of war.
He's not passive at all. He's actively, dismantling the opposition stuff.
He really is. It's not just neutralizing threats. It's like total defeat. And the description of him, his majesty, it's pretty intense. Verse 4 calls him glorious, more majestic than the mountains full of prey.
Wow. Okay, so think of the most imposing natural image, like mountains teeming with predators.
Yeah.
And God is more majestic than that. That really paints a picture.
It does. And this power, this majesty, it just devastates those who oppose him. The reflection points out verse 5 where it says, the stout-hearted were stripped of their spoil, they sank into sleep.
They lost everything, rendered helpless.
All the men of war were unable to use their hands. Imagine that. Strong warriors, unable even to lift their hands.
That really drives it home. Total incapacitation.
And it doesn't stop there. Verse 6 adds that just at your rebuke, both rider and horse lay stunned.
Just by his word. Not even a physical act, just his rebuke stuns the cavalry.
That's what it says. It's an overwhelming display of divine power.
Yeah.
Just staggering.
Which I suppose leads us right into that aspect of God. The reflection really wants us to focus on the awe-inspiring side.
Exactly. We tend to focus a lot on God's love and mercy, and the notes say, yeah, that's absolutely vital, but then they immediately say, hang on, he's also mighty, just holy, powerful.
Right. He's not only the loving father figure, he's also the righteous king who judges evil.
And that key verse the source highlights is verse 7. But you are to be feared. Who can stand before you once your anger is roused?
That's pretty direct. To be feared. It demands reverence, doesn't it?
Absolutely. And that question, who can stand before you, the implied answer is, well, nobody. When God acts in judgment, the psalm says the effect is cosmic. Verse 8, from the heavens you uttered judgment, the earth feared and was still.
The whole world just silence, in awe.
Yeah. But then, interestingly, verse 9 connects that judgment directly to salvation. He judges to save.
Okay. So he arose to establish judgment to save all the humble of the earth.
Right. His justice isn't random destruction. It's purposeful. It's about delivering the oppressed, the humble.
Okay, now this next part, verse 10, the notes really flag this one as thought-provoking. Surely the wrath of man shall praise you. The remnant of wrath you will put on like a belt. How does human anger end up praising God? That seems counterintuitive.
It is, isn't it? The source suggests it points to God's absolute sovereignty. Like even the absolute worst of human rebellion, the deepest anger against him, somehow ultimately serves his purposes. And maybe that remnant of wrath he wears like a belt. Perhaps it signifies his triumph over that wrath. Its failure against him becomes a display of his own power.
So nothing, not even human fury, is outside his control or his ultimate plan. That's a big thought.
It is. And the psalm finishes this section, verse 12, by emphasizing his authority over earthly rulers too. He cuts off the spirit of princes and is to be feared by the kings of the earth.
No human power is ultimate. He's above all of it.
That's the picture. Immense power, terrifying justice, complete sovereignty.
So the reflection takes this powerful image from the psalm and basically says, hey, let's not forget this side of God.
Pretty much, yeah. It directly addresses our tendency to maybe focus heavily on the love and mercy, which is good, but sometimes get a bit too casual about his holiness, his power, his justice.
And the core statement, the real takeaway the material emphasizes is God's mercy doesn't cancel his justice. They go hand in hand.
You can't fully appreciate the depth of his mercy, perhaps, without understanding the reality of his justice, his holiness, which this psalm makes so incredibly clear.
Right. They're two sides of the same coin, in a way.
Exactly. And if we grasp this fuller picture of God, merciful, yes, but also mighty, just fearsome, the reflection then asks, okay, so how should that change how we live?
What's the response?
Yeah.
And the note suggests it's a call to live differently, to stand out.
Mm-hmm. To consciously choose a different path from a world that, as the source puts it, often celebrates pride, compromise, self-centeredness.
And the way to live differently is defined by, what was it? Integrity, humility, and holiness.
Yeah, and crucially, the motivation isn't just, oh, no, I better do this or I'll get punished.
Right, the reflection makes that point clearly. Not out of fear of punishment, but out of reverence for who he is. It's a response born out of awe and respect for his entire character, including the powerful, just side we've been talking about.
Which implies, according to the source, really taking his word seriously, even when it's hard, because his word reveals his full nature, not just the parts that feel comfortable.
That makes sense. And it also defines holiness in a helpful way, I thought. Not as like achieving perfection, which feels impossible.
Right. But simply as being set apart for him. It's about dedication, about being distinct for God.
Set apart. Dedicated.
Okay. And Psalm 76 itself calls for this kind of dedicated response. Verse 11 says, "Make your vows to the Lord your God and perform them. Let all around him bring gifts to him who is to be feared."
So it brings it back to tangible actions, making promises, keeping them, bringing gifts or worship, specifically to this God who is to be feared. It connects the action back to his nature.
Precisely. And this is where the reflection kind of turns the spotlight on you, the listener. It poses some direct questions.
Yeah, these are good for reflection. First, how do you balance God's mercy and his justice in your view of him? Really makes you check your own understanding.
Yeah, is my picture of God skewed one way or the other? Is it complete?
Then the next one. Are there areas in your life where you've grown too casual with God's holiness? Oof, that hits home, connecting back to that need for reverence from the psalm. Have we lost the awe?
It's a challenging question. And then the last one brings it right down to daily life.
Yeah.
What would it look like to live set apart in your daily choices?
Moving from theory to practice. Okay, so if we try and pull the threads together from this deep dive, the source presents God as, well, both incredibly merciful and undeniably mighty, just someone who inspires genuine awe, even fear in the reverential sense.
Yeah. And getting a handle on that fuller picture, that whole character, should naturally lead us to a posture of deep reverence.
And that reverence isn't just a feeling inside, it's a call to action.
Yeah.
To live a life that actually looks different, marked by integrity, humility, holiness, a life, as the source says, set apart for him.
Which leaves us with a really powerful challenge, actually. The reflection includes a prayer prompt, encouraging reverence for God, not just for his gifts, what he does for us,
Right.
but for who he is, his complete being.
So the thought to leave you with, perhaps, is this. If we take this full picture of God seriously, his breathtaking power alongside his incredible mercy, there was one specific, maybe even small choice you could make today that would start to reflect that kind of set-apart life. What would actually look different?